Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Now today I'm going to be doing a David Bowie tag. This was started by Sean at SW Sound Productions, and I thought it was quite an apt tag. It was just like the other day, it was the 5-year anniversary of his passing, so I thought yes, this would be quite a good video for me to do. I had fun doing the vinyl tag a couple of weeks back, so yeah, I thought that I would do this one. So it is I think we've got 14 questions here, all David Bowie related, so we'll just get stuck in with it. So the first 2 questions I'm actually going to kind of answer together because they do for me kind of go together. So the first one is the first Bowie album you heard, and then his second question is the first Bowie album you bought. So for me, the first thing of Bowie's I bought was this CD, which is the Nothing Has Changed compilation, the very best of Bowie. So I must confess, I was not a Bowie fan before he died. It was only kind of after he passed away, there was all this coverage around his death, a lot of you kind of sense that he meant so much to people. So I was kind of thinking, well, what am I missing here? So it was kind of a case of, okay, I'll give this CD a try and see what I think. And I really just fell in love with it, really, especially the first disc. This is a whole career retrospective, so it goes right up to some later singles and that. But for me, it is really just the 70s and early 80s material, which I focus on. But yeah, this is a great start, a great introduction to Bowie. So I bought that maybe a couple of weeks after he died, and then maybe a couple of months later, the first proper album what I bought / heard was Hunky Dory here, which is probably quite a good one to start off with Bowie. I mean, it has got a couple of his very big hits on it, like Changes and Life on Mars, but it is quite a different album from a lot of the stuff either side of it. It's a lot more kind of singer-songwritery. This album a bit more acoustic, orientated, compared to the heavy rock of The Man Who Fell to Earth, or the glam of Ziggy Stardust. This one kind of stands alone, in his discography, and yeah, that was a great place to start for me. So yeah, Hunky Dory was the first one which I heard, and also the first one what I bought. His next question is your favourite Bowie album cover. So I am going to choose the same one what Sean chose and go for Low here. This was also incidentally a question on the vinyl tag, and it was favourite album cover, and this was the one what I chose, so I think it would have been a bit silly to have chosen anything else. Yeah, it's just a fantastic cover, very striking image, fits the music absolutely perfectly, and yeah, just that one album as well. So Low would be my favourite album cover. Next up is your 2 favourite Bowie eras. So era is a very loose term, really. I'm not really sure if it means one specific album or groups of albums kind of thing. But I've kind of gone for 2 eras. So kind of the first one, the pre-Ziggy era, so the Man Who Fell to Earth, and Man Who Sold the World, and Hunky Dory kind of albums, where he was I guess trying to find himself musically. He was still quite underground, he wasn't well known at this point, generally speaking. Well, I suppose he had a Space Oddity, but he hadn't had many hits by this point. So he was still kind of trying to find his niche as an artist, and these are some of his best albums here. So yeah, that would be one of my favourite eras. And then the other one, I would go for the classic Berlin trilogy, so starting with Low in 1977, same year he put out Heroes, and then a couple of years later he done Lodger, all with Brian Eno, all recorded in Europe, and all amazing records. So that would be my probably my favourite era of his. Next question is your favourite Bowie opening track, on an album. This one, I recently reviewed this album, and I kind of heaped a lot of praise on this song, so I kind of had to choose this one as my favourite opener, Station to Station. I mean, just what a track. It's just a 10-minute epic. It goes through so many different changes, musical changes, different emotions, different feelings. It's just a masterpiece of a song, and yeah, for me, I think it's one of the all-time great album openers there. So Station to Station, favourite opener. The next question is your favourite album closer of Bowie's. This one was a bit more tricky. I kind of had to do a bit more thinking about this one, trying to go through his albums and think of what songs really stand out to me. And one which does a bit of an oddball choice is Secret Life of a Arabia from Heroes here. This song is quite different for Bowie. It has got this kind of world music feel to it, but it's also very danceable as well. It sounds very much ahead of its time, kind of like with like that sort of rolling piano, almost kind of sounds a bit like house music, a little bit like there's that sort of feel to it, but it is ahead of its time, like definitely. Like so, yeah, like it's a song like which I always look forward to, like on the Heroes album there. So Secret Life of Arabia, I would pick as my favourite closer. Okay, next question of Sean's is your favourite song covered by Bowie, like on like one of his albums or singles or like whatever. I've actually chosen two here. Like one probably being my favourite, like my actual choice, and like then like another one like what I just want to give a wee mention to. So probably my favourite would be from Scary Monsters, Super Creeps, and the song Kingdom Come, which I must say I actually it was maybe only fairly recently that I actually realised that was a cover. It was written by Tom Verlaine, who was in a band called Television, and that song is from I think one of his solo albums what he made, only a year or two before Scary Monsters, and like not really sure why Bowie chose to cover it. I think he maybe just liked the song and kind of maybe wanted to give it like a bit more exposure, because I would imagine that probably most people know the Bowie version compared to like Tom Verlaine's version, but I think it is a great version of it. For me it is one of my favourite tracks on Scary Monsters, and it just turned out to be like a cover version, so that's Kingdom Come. Okay, and then the other one I want to give a wee mention to is from Young Americans, and it's his version of the Beatles' Across the Universe. Now this song, the Beatles are probably my favourite band like overall, but Across the Universe has never been one of my absolute favourite Beatles songs. I've never really I don't say like I never cared too much about the song, but it's never been a standout Beatles track for me. It's just been, yeah, it's a good song, but it's nothing too special. But I would say, and I'm definitely in the minority here, that I prefer Bowie's version. Like a lot of people think that it's a rubbish version, that it just lets this album down, but for me, I think it's really great. I think it's just the vocal he does. He really just puts a lot of passion in, like especially like the line like "Nothing's gonna change my world." It just sounds so defiant and yeah, just a really powerful vocal there. And yeah, for me, I actually prefer this to the Beatles version, so I'm definitely in the minority there. And yeah, I just wanted to give a quick mention to his version of Across the Universe. Next question is your favourite Bowie collaboration. This was a bit more tricky because, as I said, like I'm not the biggest fan of Bowie. Like I don't know every nook and cranny like of like his discography. So I have gone probably for like the most generic one here. His collaboration with Queen, Under Pressure, which is included on this Recall 3 sort of like odds and ends compilation included with the Berlin Trilogy box set. Yeah, I mean, it is a great song, this. You can't really go wrong with it. Yeah, to be honest, I couldn't really think of what else to choose for this question. And similar kind of story with this next one here, which is your favourite Bowie song from a soundtrack. Once again, like I'm not too familiar like with like other songs he's done like from other soundtracks, but this like I think is still a good pick because it is a fantastic song. It's Absolute Beginners from the film of the same name. I mean, yeah, certainly like one of his best 80s songs. I mean, like yeah, just a really great song, I think. Like from like maybe like a not so great movie there. So that is the Absolute Beginners single here. Next question, number 10, is a Bowie track that you think is underappreciated, that doesn't get talked about too much. Again, this was a slightly tricky one because he's one of these artists who I think a lot of his albums, a lot of his like whole career, like sort of is like revered and is sort of like well loved by so many people. But the song what I'm gonna choose is from Diamond Dogs, and it's the track Big Brother, which yeah, for me is a song which again just doesn't really get sort of talked about too much, but I really like it, especially that kind of like the chorus line, like someone to save us, someone to follow, like someone to blame us, like that bit. It's just such an anthemic sort of like ending to this album, and like yeah, like I said, a song like which I don't really hear talked about too much. So Big Brother, yes, would be my like underappreciated Bowie song. Next question now is your favourite album which had Bowie's involvement in it. So like not a Bowie record, but like one like which like he either produced or sort of like wrote a lot of songs for it or like whatever. Again, I kind of maybe semi struggled with this one, but this was one which I was probably going to pick like anyway. It's an album by Iggy Pop, and it is The Idiot here. Yeah, this was recorded I think just before he done Low. So this was kind of like he produced this album, he co-wrote pretty much all the songs like on the album with Iggy Pop. And yeah, it is a very sort of like a very dark album. Like apparently this was the record which Ian Curtis was listening to when he hung himself. So it's certainly not a jolly listen. But it is. But it does have some great songs in it, like Sister Midnight, Nightclubbing, and also the original version of China Girl like is on here as well. Like not a lot of people know it was originally done by Iggy Pop in 1977 and then kind of reworked by Bowie a few years later. So yeah, this would be my choice for an album with Bowie's involvement. Next question, I can't really answer this one. It is your favourite Bowie film, and I must confess I haven't actually seen any of the Bowie films, like what he is like an actor in. Like I know it's a bit shocking that, like, but yeah, I haven't seen like either like Labyrinth or Man Who Fell to Earth and that. But certainly for me, like the one I would want to see the most is like The Man Who Fell to Earth. Kind of because for me it was filmed in sort of like that sort of era, like where he was doing sort of station to station, and he had that great like look about him, and like yeah, for me like I think like seems like quite like an interesting film, like, but I've just never had the chance to watch it yet. Next up is your favourite influence on Bowie. Again, this one seemed quite like wide-reaching because he has been influenced by a lot of artists like down the years. But one what kind of came to mind was 60s band Rolling Stones here, kind of just because of their kind of like their sort of like their very hard sort of like rock and roll, and also kind of like the harmonicas they use like as well, like in stuff like say the G Genie, that has a very kind of Stonesy flavour to it, and even things like Rebel Rebel and that kind of I think like is kind of like a direct like sort of like ancestor like of like the Rolling Stones, like sort of like earlier material. So yeah, these would certainly be an influence on David Bowie. And last of the main questions now is your favourite Bowie look, like what era you thought that he looked the best, dressed the best, all that sort of stuff. And for me, I would go for kind of like the Young Americans era, just where he had this very classy, like like this sort of like flame red hair there, and he dressed very smartly as well. So I just like this sort of like era, like off him, like kind of like looks wise, like so yeah, like that would be my answer to that one. And then these last two, like on the tag, are kind of bonus questions, so you don't really need to answer them, but I will just address them though. So first one of these is, if you'd seen Bowie live, what concert of his was the best like you've seen? Now, surprise, surprise, I never got the chance to see him live. He's certainly been one of those artists who I wish I had seen live, but I never had the opportunity to. Like he really stopped touring, like when I was maybe say 6 years old or something. So I doubt I was even aware of David Bowie. But if I'd seen him live, the tours I would have want to have seen him on would probably have included the stage tour, so sort of like the 1978 World Tour, where he was like performing a lot of like the Berlin trilogy era music, like on tour. I think that would have been a great show for me. Maybe the Serious Moonlighting tour seems like quite a lot of fun as well, and then maybe also like his Glastonbury appearance from the year 2000 with just like chock full of hits, really just like a celebration of his whole career, like all his musical achievements and that. So yeah, those would be probably some of my my live shows, which like if I had the chance I wish I had seen. And then the last question is the kind of like the archive release, what like you're most sort of excited about, like the thing like coming up, like what's like due to be released, like what like you like most kind of like looking forward to. Now I must say again, I'm like not the biggest collector like of like all his stuff, like everything like what kind of like his estate like is putting out, so I don't really know, to be fair. I mean like yeah, it'd be nice to get like another like one of like these big box sets. I think there is one coming off like his 90s work, which might be interesting. I mean, considering like I've not got any of it, like so that might be like an interesting one for me. But yeah, like I don't really know like what else is in the vault, like what else like is like in the pipeline to be released. So that has me done the David Bowie tag. So yes, I hope you have enjoyed this video. I will link Sean's original video in the description, and yes, I will see you all next time for the next video. Goodbye.